So a question that I get asked very regularly, people call me up and they say, hey, Kelly, is it... So a question that I get asked very regularly, people will call me up and they'll say, hey, Kelly, should I sell or should I wait? And then I say something to the likes of, well, if you were waiting, what exactly are you waiting for? And then they say, I'm waiting for the market to get better. And then I say, by your definition, what is better to you? And then they'll say, well, I want the prices to be higher. So I'm going to help you understand, and then I'm going to give you, what I would do, basically. So first off, the market can be better while prices are falling or already lower. Those two things can exist at the same time. As an example of this, March was a terrible month. There was no sales activity. Nothing was happening. However, if you managed to sell your home in March, you'd be getting a higher sale price than today, even though I would say the market is better today. There's more sales activity, there's more buyers out there, there's more people looking for homes, and the sentiment is quite a bit better today than it was in March. However, if you waited for the market to be better in this case, you would actually be selling your home for less. So to help you understand what I'm talking about, we have all of this inventory in the Fraser Valley, 9,361 listings. And if you look at the sales, we're only getting about 1,100 sales. And if you look at the sales to actives ratio, that is only 12%. So if you list your home right now, you have a 12% chance of selling within the month. And by the numbers, that is a buyer's market, right? So 14 to 18% is balanced. Buyers would be anything below 14, and a seller's market is anything above 18. We need this number at roughly 20% for... And you don't just need it at 20%. You need that 20% over a sustained amount of time to see the prices start creeping up. And even at 20%, you're not going to see a rocketing in prices. You're just going to see slow, steady growth in prices. And to show you guys, when we were experiencing that run up in late 2021, look at the sales ratios here, 50%, blah, 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 blah. And we probably should have been growing maybe a quarter as fast as this, or, maybe freaking 30% as fast as the prices were going up here. So, maybe you need a sales ratio around 25 to 30% to see like a good pace in price growth. And for that to happen, we need sales to pick up quite substantially to start. We need we need two things to happen. We need sales to pick up quite substantially. We need new listings to slow down. And then you would see the overall inventory start dropping down, and then the ratio from the amount of sales happening in comparison to the inventory on the market would then cause this number to be 20% or over. So when I get asked the question, is it a good time to sell? Well, it depends, right? Do you want to sell when there's more activity in the market for an easier sale? Or do you want to sell and secure the highest price? And I think most people would probably choose the highest price. So that being the case, for the majority of people selling a home with this much inventory and this low of sales, I think we're most likely going to see prices continue to come down for the rest of the year. And that being the case, just because there is very low activity in the market doesn't mean that you can't sell your home. Because if you are the best price home on the market and the best option, there will likely be a buyer for it when you list your home. The caveat is that you have to list what appears to be at an aggressive price right now. But you might look back 3 months from now and be like, oh, thank God I decided to sell it at that price back then, because if I sell it today, I'd be getting $20,000 less. So I'm going to cover a couple scenarios. If you are, say, an investor holding a condo who wants to sell at the best time possible, I think right now is probably going to be the best time. And if I had to guess, I think higher prices is probably going to be a late 2028 to early 2029 story. And the reason why, we have a lot of inventory, we have a lot of rentals in the pipeline, we have a lot more housing completions on the way for next year. And let's just say you're not comfortable selling unless the price is 5% higher. Well, let's say over the next year, the prices go down another 5%, or they go down another, whatever it is, right? Then we have to bottom out, kind of be in a balanced market for a bit. And then the prices would actually have to go 10% higher from that point, right? So selling right now is probably going to be your best bet for the next 3 years if I had to guess. Don't take my advice. Do whatever you want to do, but that would be my guess. If you are an investor holding a townhome or a detached home, I am actually seeing very strong demand for townhomes right now. I have buyers looking for townhomes in South Surrey, Cloverdale, and Willoughby Heights, Langley. We send out 10 showing requests. Literally half of them have accepted offers. Even stuff that's on the market 3, 4, 5 days is getting accepted offers right now. So that market is actually, it's always been resilient. It's been the most resilient thing, throughout this entire market. And I mean, you look at the sales to actives in the Fraser Valley, it's balanced at 17%, but it's spent most of this bear market over 20% throughout the entire time. So if you have a townhome and you want to sell due to higher prices, that might be possible in like a mid 2027, if I had to guess, right? And this is all guessing because the bond fixed rates are going back up. There's 500 macro global issues we need to worry about, but trying to give you an idea of what you might possibly need to be prepared to do if you can only sell under the basis that you need a higher price. Now, if we were to talk about detached, I actually think this market is going to tighten up a lot starting next year. As we go into 2026, we're going to have lower prices. The prices have gone down, like even on the HPI, we're down another 5% this year, probably a bit more than that because the HPI does lag. But as we get into the spring of 2026, there's not a lot of inventory here. As you can see, it's kind of around the historic average, lower prices, maybe some sales come back into the market, and I think you'll probably see that market tighten up. That being the case, you might actually see a tiny bit of growth next year, and that might make early 27, spring 27, a good time to sell your detached home if you are an investor who just wants a higher price. If you are a homeowner who needs to move now because of you're getting married, having a kid, getting a divorce, need to move because of a job relocation, anything under the sun that causes you to have to move right now or sometime very soon, I think the most amount of money you're going to get is listing as soon as possible and just being very aggressive with your price, being the best option on the market, both in the product you have, the way it shows, and the price that you're choosing to market it at. I probably wouldn't wait for a more active market where it's easier to sell. I would probably just try to be the better option right now in a crap market. Homeowner who owns a condo. This is an interesting one. Who wants to upgrade? And I've talked about this before, but the gap between a condo to a detached home used to be this wide. Now it's this wide, right? I just had a client upgrade from a 1-bed in Abbotsford to a detached home with a suite in Abbotsford. And that was less than $500,000 gap. It was about $480,000 gap to go from a 1-bedroom apartment to a detached with a suite. I actually think it's about the same price after you count the rent for the suite to do that upgrade right now. Before, that would have been about, an $800,000 to $1 million gap. So if you're moving from a condo to a detached, now is an amazing time to do that. And there's another layer to this where I don't think detached has too much more downside, where condos probably have a lot more downside just based on the inventory and the overall buyer pool. That's the homeowner pool that is currently in the condo market is a lot of investors, a lot of people that are over leveraged, cash flow negative, blah, 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 blah. Whereas detached is a lot more end user friendly, right? So there's a few amazing reasons to sell your condo, move up to a detached. One being that, the condo market is likely going to continue to dip, at least in the short term. And this doesn't have to be all condos, but at least on an aggregate basis, right? And two, the gap between your condo to a detached is significantly smaller than it's been in the past. So if you've got stable employment, if you have the means to do it, now is an unbelievable time to actually pull that off. And again, because the market is falling, I probably wouldn't wait until a better market to sell your condo and make that move, because when the better market happens, detached might have already been appreciating for a minute, your condo's fallen more. And by the time your condo actually sees that price that you wanted to sell your condo, well, the detached has likely already appreciated, possibly appreciated even more. But even if it appreciated on the same percentage basis on a dollar amount, it's going to be way more than the amount that your condo appreciated. So to answer the question, plain and simple, I think now is a better time to sell than later, just because of where prices are going. But again, it really depends on your personal situation, where you're going after, what you're planning to do with the money when you do eventually sell. But as a general statement, I would say sell now, price aggressively, market it properly, make sure it shows well, and just be the best option in a crap market and get rid of the thing. So something I forgot to do in that video while I was shooting it that I want to make very clear is I'm not saying that you should be selling your home right now. I'm specifically talking to the people who are already thinking about selling. If you bought a home in the last couple of years, well, real estate is an 8 to 10 year hold, and you shouldn't be thinking about exiting that investment or that purchase this early into the process of holding that investment. But what I'm saying is that if you are waiting for higher prices and you're already thinking about selling now, understand the process of what needs to take place before you see higher prices, right? Sales need to go up. That's the first thing. That's probably not happening until spring of 2026, when pretty much everything across the board is a lower price. More buyers can afford to get into the market. We should see more sales starting next spring. Once we see more new sales and less new listings, you'll see inventory start to come down. That's going to take some time. Once inventory comes down, we're back in a balanced market. We might stay there for a little bit. That's going to take some more time. Then we have to enter a seller's market again, and it's going to take time in the seller's market to see the prices appreciate, and you've probably lost some of the value of your investment as we went from a cold buyer's market to a balanced market. Your home value has probably come down during that entire process, sometime in a balanced market, and then you have to wait for the price to come back up on the other side. So it's okay to wait. If you purchased, don't expect anything amazing in the next year or two. Hold on to that for 8 to 10 years. But if you're somebody who's thinking about selling, anytime soon, what I'm saying is, and you want the higher price, right now is probably the better time. And if you want to chat with me about doing that, link down in the description. I'm that Agent Kelly. I'm making moves to move you. Peace.